All right, let's jump into this deep dive. Today, we're talking about something really important, especially if you're thinking about owning land in Kenya. We gotta avoid the pitfalls, right?
Absolutely.
So we're digging into this article, Top 5 Red Flags to Look For in Land Ownership Documents, and let me tell you, it's got some real-life examples that really caught my eye.
Oh, yeah, it's a smart move focusing on that. See, in Kenya, owning land, it's not just about a place to live. It's about culture, family,
Right,
history.
it's a big deal.
Huge. It's tied to economic opportunity, too.
Yeah.
But, and this is a big but, that makes it a target for people who want to take advantage.
Okay, so red flags up from the start. And this article, it cuts right to the chase. Red flag number 1, inconsistent signatures. Now that might seem kind of basic, but I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye.
You're totally right. It's a common tactic, these inconsistent signatures, because they're sneaky, easy to miss, especially when you're buried in paperwork.
Oh, I can imagine.
But here's the thing. Under Kenyan law, even a tiny difference in a signature, like a little loop or something,
Oh, wow.
it can invalidate the whole deal.
Whoa. So
But
we're not talking about just like someone's handwriting changing day to day, right? What kind of details are we talking about?
we're talking like the way they write a T, different on one document compared to another.
Yeah.
Or maybe the pressure they use when signing, those subtle things.
So like, is the signature shaky in one spot, things like that?
Exactly. In Kenya, your signature, it's like a legal stamp on that land deal.
Gotta protect it.
100%. And you know what? This article, it's got a perfect example. This buyer almost got tricked because the signature on the title deed, totally different from the one on the sales agreement.
Oh.
Turned out the seller, they'd forged the real owner's signature.
That's crazy. So it really does happen. Okay, on to red flag number 2. Altered dates and missing legal stamps. This one seems right up your alley. What should we be looking out for?
All right, so in Kenya, those dates on documents, those official stamps, they're crucial. Think of them like proof it's the real deal, like a security seal.
Okay, gotcha.
If a date's missing or looks tampered with, could mean someone's trying to pull a fast one. Maybe had a previous sale or something.
To make it look like it happened before a certain law came into effect, maybe? That makes sense. But for those of us who aren't lawyers or whatever, what about those stamps? Like, what should we actually be looking for?
Good question. Keep your eyes peeled for, let's see, things like the official seal from the land registry, the lawyer's stamp and signature who was there for the deal, sometimes even revenue stamps to prove taxes are paid.
So it's not just like any old stamp will do.
Nope. Each stamp, it's like a checkpoint. It means something specific happened legally.
Gotcha. So what if these stamps are missing or someone's messed with them?
Well, there was this case in Nairobi, right? This buyer almost bought land, but the title deed, someone had changed the dates on it.
No way!
Yeah, to make the sale look way older than it was. They caught it, thankfully, but it just shows.
How important it is to pay attention. This deep dive is already worth its weight in gold. Okay, on to red flag number 3. And this one, man, it seems easy to miss. Incorrect land descriptions or boundaries.
That's a big one. And surprisingly common. We're talking about like the size of the land being wrong, the boundary lines not adding up. Sounds small, but it can cause huge problems later on.
I can see how you might just skim over that part, especially if you're not a surveyor or anything. What should people be extra careful about when they're looking at those documents?
First things first, don't assume anything. Always, always double check that land size they put on the title deed. Compare it to any maps or surveys you've got and those boundary descriptions. Make sure they're crystal clear.
So it should all match up perfectly.
Exactly. If anything seems vague or like they contradict themselves in another document, that's a red flag for sure.
So be skeptical, like you're a detective or something.
100%. The article, it even talks about this case in Nairobi again, where a buyer ended up in a huge mess because those measurements on the title deed, they were off.
You just never know. Speaking of things you never know, let's move to red flag number 4. And this one sounds like a nightmare. Multiple sales or conflicting ownership claims.
Yeah, this one keeps people up at night.
Yeah.
You think you've got your dream property, then bam, someone else says it's theirs.
That's terrifying. How does that even happen? I thought there were systems to stop that.
There are, but people who want to cheat the system, they always find a way. Usually what we see is this double selling thing. So someone sells the same piece of land to like 2 different people, often using fake documents or something.
So it's like a race against time to get those documents filed officially, huh?
Sometimes, yeah.
Wow. So what are some things to watch out for, like in the history of who's owned the property, to know if something fishy might be going on?
That chain of ownership, that's key. If you're tracking back who owned it before and it's like a maze, or if it's changed hands a bunch of times really fast, red flag
I
city.
like a hot potato.
And always, always get proof of ownership for every single transaction for that land. Don't just take someone's word for it.
That's good advice for just about anything in life, honestly. Don't just take someone's word for it. Question everything. It sounds like due diligence is everything here.
It is. We're talking about your future here, potentially. Your money. You gotta
Yeah.
be diligent.
Absolutely. And speaking of due diligence, that brings us to our last red flag for this part of our deep dive. Red flag number 5. Missing supporting documents. This one seems kind of broad compared to the others, but I got a feeling it's just as important. What do you think?
Oh, you're totally spot on. Missing those supporting documents, that's a big deal. Think of it like you've got the main documents, right? They're important, sure, but it's like a movie trailer, you know? You're only getting a glimpse. Those supporting documents, that's the whole movie.
Okay, I like where you're going with this. Like, they're the behind-the-scenes stuff that really tells the story.
Exactly. They're proof that everything lines up, that the deal is legit.
So what are some of those must-have supporting documents? Like, what should we be asking for?
First off, the sale agreement, got to have that. It's basically the contract, right?
Yeah.
Between the buyer and the seller.
Makes sense.
Lays out all the details, the price, when payments are due, all that jazz. Got to make sure that document is solid.
Yeah, because if something goes wrong later, just saying, well, we agreed, that ain't going to hold up in court, right?
Nope, not at all. And then there's a consent from the Land Control Board. This one's really important, especially in Kenya.
That's the local authorities, right? What do they do exactly?
So they're the ones who look at the sale, make sure everything's above board, that it's okay to sell that land. It's kind of a way to protect agricultural land, especially, make sure it's used properly.
That makes sense. So it's not just about the buyer and seller, there's a community aspect to it too.
Exactly. Brings in transparency, you know.
Yeah, I'm all about transparency. Okay, so we got the sale agreement, land control board consent, anything else?
Don't forget about taxes. Got to see proof that the sellers paid all the land rates. Those are like property taxes for the local government.
So you don't get stuck with their bill, basically.
Exactly. That would be a nasty surprise.
Understatement of the year. The article actually mentioned this case. This buyer, they did everything by the book, or so they thought. Turns out, no land control board approval.
Ouch.
Yeah, they lost their shirt on that deal.
It's tough, but that's why we're talking about it, right? It's
Yeah.
easy to think you can skip a step or two, but
It can come back to bite you.
big time. This is about protecting yourself. Your investment. This is serious stuff.
Couldn't agree more. So let's recap for a sec. We've gone over 5 major red flags when it comes to those land documents in Kenya. Those inconsistent signatures, messed up dates, and missing stamps. Those land descriptions that don't add up. The whole multiple sales nightmare.
Double selling. Ugh, the worst.
And of course, those missing supporting documents, which you just nailed home, are so important. And we've seen how these things can really trip people up in real life. Eye-opening stuff.
It's all about being smart. Do your homework. And don't be shy about asking questions. Lots of them.
Better to be a pain than lose your savings.
100%. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't.
Trust your gut. Now, before we wrap up this part, you mentioned getting professional help earlier. What did you mean by that? So when we talk about this professional help, who are we actually talking about bringing in?
Well, even if you've done your homework, read all the articles, memorized everything we've talked about.
Become an expert yourself, basically.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's still so valuable to get a fresh set of eyes on things, professionally trained eyes.
Okay, so like calling in the big guns.
Exactly. If you see any of these red flags pop up, or even if something just feels off in your gut, don't mess around. Get some expert advice. A good lawyer, someone who really knows land transactions inside and out, they can spot those sneaky problems in the documents.
It's like having a legal bodyguard.
Right. They've seen it all,
So lawyer, check. Anyone else? Who else should we have on speed dial?
Don't forget about forensic document examiners. These guys, they're like document detectives.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
They can tell if the signature's forged, if the ink's been tampered with, even the paper itself. Stuff we'd never catch.
Wild. See, this is what I'm talking about. You don't know what you don't know. That's why it's so important to have these people around. Makes you think, what other resources are out there that people just don't even know about? The article mentioned this company, Ultimate Forensic Consultants, I think it was called.
Oh, yeah, they're good.
They're based in Kenya, right?
Mm-hmm. They specialize in document fraud, like that's their thing.
So even if you've got a lawyer, sometimes you need someone who really, really specializes.
Exactly.
It's all about being proactive, right? Know what you're getting into.
100%. The more you know, the safer you are,
Uh-huh.
and the more confident you'll feel going through the process.
It's like that saying, knowledge is power. Or in this case, knowledge protects your future home.
There you go.
Well said. This has been such an eye-opening deep dive, I gotta say. Our listeners are walking away armed and dangerous.
Prepared. Let's go with prepared.
Right. But seriously, folks, due diligence, it's not optional when it comes to land, especially in Kenya. Do your research, ask the tough questions, get those experts on board, and until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there.